The first is the U.S. economy better off with natural gas used in manufacturing than with LNG? Now, we looked at this in terms of comparison, not as an either-or scenario. We found that LNG exports actually benefit the economy, and we show that here in this chart. But what we found also was that gas used for gas-intensive manufacturing produces a value-added or GDP effect that is twice as large than LNG exports for commensurate use of natural gas. We also found over 8 times as many jobs created for ongoing employment and almost 4 times the amount of construction jobs. This comparison was done at 5 BCFD because that's the amount of announcements that have been made in the manufacturing sector for gas-intensive manufacturing since 2010, and it amounts to over $90 billion of investment.
In the DOE study, we looked at a lot of scenarios. We did that in order to try to reach robust conclusions about some broad questions about the public interest. And I did, in fact, take the public interest to mean whether there were net economic benefits or net economic costs to the U.S. economy as a whole of allowing natural gas exports. DOE may or not adopt that. That's hardly ever a criterion of the public interest in politics in the United States. If it were, we would not have such inefficient regulatory systems and such bad trade policies adopted all the time in the name of some other notion of national interest, which really means weighting the rents that are going to accrue to different groups by their political influence and deciding how they should be allocated through the government. That is not my idea of either the public interest or of how government serves the common good.
Also, the chemical industry employs 785,000 people, according to the BEA. It's a pretty large portion of employment. That does not include multiplier benefits. There are some tremendous multiplier benefits that result from the chemical industry because of their efficient use of capital. And that affects the supply chain, suppliers, and employment and output within those industries. Finally, I just want to address a few other things in the statements that David made about the chemical industry. One was about nitrogenous fertilizer and that it's a minute impact on the economy. He quotes 4,000 jobs, direct jobs, in his recent testimony. His colleague, Ann Smith, over at NERA just a few years ago, showed about 8,000 just in nitrogenous and not showing the impacts of downstream chemical production. She also showed about a 10-time multiplier on that, so about 80,000 jobs related to the Nitrogenous Fertilizer Institute, a colleague of David Montgomery's. Thank you.
I'm going to debate jobs. It's simply an example of using the wrong model. There's nothing, a multiplier model can occasionally be useful, as one of the originators of urban economics, Ed Mills, pointed out. When you are very careful about understanding where the resources are coming from, where the finances are coming from, into a particular region, and are looking at what will happen in a region when there is a sudden when there's kind of new resources coming into it for investment. Totally inappropriate to use it at national level. It's just fine, but the problem is it's a waste of money to have economists all coming up with the same conclusion. Because, in fact, if you apply a multiplier model, you get the same answer no matter what industry you're applying it to, because it's the same. A multiplier of 10 is the same, includes the same worker at McDonald's or supplier of steel who would be supplying it to the chemicals industry or to the natural gas industry. The entire use of multipliers is based on the assumption, and this is built into the calculation, that there is no other use for the resources, that if you are not producing chemicals, all these people sit around doing nothing.